Hey, everybody. Welcome to Grilling at the Green. I'm Jeff. I was going to say JT. I'm Jeff, actually, or one. You can call me anything you want. How's your golf game this week? Well, we're going to find out how this gentleman's golf game is. We're happy to welcome to the show Simon Millington from Golf Brands Inc. down in Henderson, Nevada, a world traveler, I might say. We've been talking about that off the air. But first, we want to thank the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef, beef the way nature intended. And from our friends over on the Oregon coast, the Oregon Crab Commission from sea to plate. If you've never had Oregon Dungeness crab, you're missing out on a real treat. So if you can find some, have it today. Have you ever had Dungeness crab, Simon?
I probably have. I mean, but I couldn't tell you exactly where or when.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Anyway, welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you.
How did you get how did you get involved and start Golf Brands? And I looked at your profile and resume, of course, and were you always interested in the golf world?
Yeah, so I've been in the golf business my whole life. I sort of started very young with thinking it was a good idea. And I've sort of stuck with it. So nudging towards 40 years in the industry. So yeah, that was really just a part of everything from being a rep, director of golf and owning a golf course, to sort of, you know, latterly well, actually over the last 20 years, accumulating a lot of golf brands. And then, selling them sort of all around the world as we do.
Sure. Did was this something you, as a kid, somebody gave you a set of sticks and you went out and started playing and went, wow, the light bulb came on?
Well, yeah, I started playing probably around 10 or 11. So I was playing, I'm going to say football, but soccer, in my garden with my best friend, and his dad was taking him to play golf. That's how I started. He said, "Did you want to come and play with us?" And that's how I started. Um, but my brother at the time, so we had the family had a boat, and my brother loved boats, and he went into the boat industry. Um, and he was 3 years older than me. And everybody goes, "What a fantastic thing to do, to be in the boat industry, something you're passionate about," And he went, that's what he did for a number of years. And so, young brother, I thought, well, I love golf, so I'm going to go in the golf business, and kind of started phoning around and trying to become a rep for companies. And that was how it all started 40 odd years ago. So
Was that in this country or in your home country?
that was in the UK. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Is
that
it
kind of
is
stuff.
it different being a rep over there than it is here? I mean, my family had a retail business for 20 odd years, and so I got to know the reps, not in the golf world, but a different business. But point is, a lot of those guys were independent, even if they had worked for a main brand, they always had some sidelines too. Is it similar?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, I mean, it was, I mean, like literally, I probably had, I don't know, I phoned around from a golf magazine, phoning up saying, "Hey, can I be your rep in," at the time, the south of England, and getting these little agencies and stuff like that. I mean, just on commission only. I was young at the time. I was like 18, just started to drive, and off I went, going around repping to all these pro shops at the time, and then sort of gradually got into various parts of it, and here we are in Henderson, Nevada. I didn't see that coming, but
I don't want to belabor this too much, but did they do the same things? I know with the reps in my family's business, they always had a big sample line. And as their prominence grew as a rep and they got more lines, their sample lines got bigger, and they started out in a car, and pretty soon they were driving a van, and then pretty soon they had a truck and trailer and all kinds of things. Was that kind of similar?
yeah. Well, yeah, actually, yeah, completely similar. I mean, I started off with almost a suitcase full of some samples of, I think I had golf balls, a putter line, a head cover line, um, and then I started actually having stock. So I went to a trailer behind my car, and
Yeah.
then I did go to a van and actually had inventory on it, and driving around and selling it off the back, driving all over. I went from sort of being in the south of England to going up and down the country, and um, you know, and that was it. Yeah. So yeah, I actually, the three things you mentioned, literally, that was the progression at the time.
Well, there's one thing about doing it that way, I think, Simon, is you learn the trade and you learn the industry.
Yeah.
That's really organic and grassroots, you might say, but that's a one way to learn. And I think it's the best way. Anyway, that's just me, but
No, I
uh,
agree. Yeah, I mean, it's you know, particularly when you're on commission only, or you know, you're out there trying to do it, and you know, you start. You know, people always say, "Oh, you know, how did you get into this?" It's like, you know, I started trying to make a living. That's how,
yeah,
you know, people always talk about where your business ends up, but you know, your primary focus when you start a business for most people, I think, is to, you know, feed the kids, sort of thing. So
right. Sometimes it's a long wait between those $80 commission checks, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of food at the side of the side of the freeway was eaten and stuff. But yeah.
So as you were going along, what what prompted you to start looking into some of these classic brands like McGregor and Ram, and now you've got Hogan? What made you think to go that direction?
So one of the things after I'd sort of done the wholesale bit, I started
Sure.
in golf course management, then into retail, and I ended up owning about 7 golf shops in the UK. I sold them, and I in that meantime, about 1997, I'd opened a wholesale business up in Palm Springs. I thought it was a good idea to go into the US wholesale. You know, young and
Yeah.
stupid, and just, you know, you're kind of fearless at that age, right? And so we I did that, sold the golf shops, and then flying over to Palm Springs, I read about this thing called eBay.
Yeah.
That so we'd ended up having retail stores in Palm Springs, and on the way there, so I'm reading, you know, it's the summer, it's 125 degrees. There's not a lot of foot traffic coming in for golfers. So we launched on eBay, and you know, had no idea, couldn't get the listing to work. Luckily, my brother had gone from boats to computers, so he could help me get the picture up, because instead of a little cross and all this sort of stuff. Um, and we sold the first sale we made. We put something on. It was a set of tailor-made irons, the old burner irons, the copper-coloured ones.
Right.
And I put a listing on there. I managed to get this listing to go on. And I'm wandering around in the store, and I came back like 20 minutes later, and it had sold $449. I can remember the price. It's like, this internet stuff might be interesting. And so we started doing that, and we, you know, we were effectively like, we'd be buying deals and trying to find deals to sell online through you know, various sites, but primarily eBay at the time. And that was great, but the trouble was, you're always reliant on a deal. You know, if you couldn't find deals, you didn't have a business, right?
Right.
So originally I came up with a brand name sort of in the shower one morning of Texan Classics. So we then started importing our own product branded Texan Classics, just so we had something constantly to sell that we had control of. In 2000, now I'm going to go take you through a whole host of sort of brands that we own that are industry brands that people may or may not remember, but we bought Confidence Golf. They'd gone out of business in Palm Springs, and we bought all the inventory, and we bought the brands Confidence Golf. And then from then we have Palm Springs, we have Prosimon, which is it was very well known in Europe and Australia. And so we gradually started buying these brands. Young Gun, which was the biggest junior brand in Europe. We bought Forgan of St Andrews, which is the oldest golf brand in the world, particularly known to collectors and stuff like that. So we gradually started our own sort of range brands. And then about, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years ago, we got the opportunity, I kind of hunted it down, to buy Ram and Zebra. So that was kind of the first of our sort of, what I would class as our bigger brands, our premium brands. And then and actually Teardrop at the same time there. So we did that. And that was, we bought those from Dick's Sporting Goods. They also owned McGregor, and they weren't really doing too much with that. So we ended up buying McGregor from them as well. And then the end of last year, we took on a license. So with Ben Hogan, so with Perry Ellis from Perry
Yeah.
Ellis, who are the brand owners of Ben Hogan. So that's kind of completed our portfolio, and we kind of like the way, you know, we've got a lot of new products coming out, and you know, but like in terms of sort of our club range, it's like we've got Ram, McGregor, Ben Hogan, so we've kind of got good, better, best
Yeah.
So across our lines, and we kind of take those lines, and we try and have everything from, if you're a starting golfer to a senior golfer at the end of your career, we like to have everything in between. So juniors, everything. So
Excellent. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with Simon Millington, the CEO of Golf Brands Inc. down in Henderson, Nevada. He didn't choose to go to a cooler spot from Palm Springs to Henderson, but we'll talk about that later. You're listening to Grilling at the Green. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. I'm Jeff Tracy, and we're talking with Simon Millington today from Golf Brands. They have McGregor, and they have Ram, and they have Zebra putters. And just last fall, they acquired the licensing for Hogan. And we're going to talk more about that. But first, I'm going to put Simon, ask him to put his thinking cap on. This is a part of the segment, Simon, where, and I know you can do this, we ask for golf travel tips. And I know you just got home from an extensive trip over in Asia. So if you were going to tell our listeners something to really be aware of when they're traveling on a golf adventure, what would it be?
I mean, one thing's for sure that comes to mind, which is if you've got a driver that you can take the head off, take it off, stop the airlines taking it off mid-flight. So I've seen many a driver turn up with the shaft broken. So yeah, take the head off the driver would be a good travel tip for sure.
Absolutely. And we want to thank the folks, my good friends over at Weston Kia in Gresham, Oregon. Uh, they back this show, and they're a great dealer. In fact, they're the number one dealer in Oregon and Southwest Washington for Kia cars. Anyway, as we said, we're talking with Simon Millington from Golf Brands Inc. I have a set of Hogans, by the way, that I got about, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. And I just thought I'd throw that in for you. Have you seen an uptick in your business since and it's fairly recent, but since you acquired the licensing for the Hogan brand?
Yeah, I mean, it's been tremendously well received. The product. I mean, the product is beautiful. I mean, you can't make, the forge lines. You can't make better. There isn't better golf equipment out there.
Right.
You literally can't spend more money. You can't do it better. We're custom building everything in the US in Henderson. It's all done in house here. We've got a team of really high quality assemblers that are doing all the assembly, and it's really allowed us to build on just with Ben Hogan, but also across our other brands to offer more and more options for custom fit. So yeah, it's been really good. It's one of the things I like with Ben Hogan. It kind of drives us to be better. It makes everything we're doing across all our brands better. And it's kind of funny being an English guy and saying it, but I'm really proud to be doing it in the US. I absolutely love. I've been out in the assembly plant this morning. I love it. I love wandering around. I love looking at what they're doing. I love looking at the orders. So yeah, it's been a really positive thing for the business for sure.
That's good. And when you say the word Hogan, he's been gone for quite a while and all of that, but it still is synonymous with work ethic, quality,
Yeah.
laser focus, if you will, all of those things. I don't think it's one of those things that's ever going to go away myself. I just think
No, I absolutely agree. It's our job to make it relevant across, and to tell the story to younger golfers, who may not have heard of either Mr. Hogan or the brand, but we still have a sort of a devout following for sure with I mean, like it makes me smile when I go and look at the orders and I see the icon blade that we do, which is, I mean, it's a beautiful blade, but it's a blade.
right.
And we're making them with a senior graphite shaft in it. These guys are still sticking with it. It's like they want to play golf with a bladed club, and no matter what their age. But if you like a sort of Miura for as the regarded, as fabulous as their golf clubs are from Japan, we feel that we're America's version of that. And the clubs, I believe our clubs are absolutely as good, if not better in some cases, than theirs. And we're very proud of that. And so for us, it's to keep building on that Ben Hogan legacy, and from the turf up and all of his way of doing things. Okay, we're going to have to modernize some things that we need to do, but really make it relevant. And the most important thing I say is to try and tell the story that we want people to, there's the sort of the Hoganites, as I call them, are absolute devout followers, but we want people who haven't had a set of Ben Hogans before to realize this is an American built club. It's as good as you can get. It's as good as anything, and really sort of focus on that, because that's the next generation we need. It's like we can't just have a sort of an older generation who are devout to Ben Hogan. We got to get the new following. So that's kind of our job to get that across.
I would almost think that would apply to McGregor too, because McGregor was big when I was a kid.
I mean, the thing is for me, which is really kind of, pleasing, is like, I've been in the golf business 40 years now. McGregor, Ram, Zebra were the brands. I've talked about this before, but no other golf company in the world has more major wins than our brands. Now, Wilson are number one, but McGregor, Ram, Ben Hogan, Zebra, nobody with, and that's, that's a pretty incredible thing, right? I guess starting on the road in the back of with a suitcase to owning these brands that at the time, I can remember a friend of mine who was rep for McGregor at the time with the Big Mac putter thing that Jack won the Open with. And, I remember him, they couldn't sell them fast enough. I was like, oh, well, it must be fantastic to be selling McGregor. And then, at no point in my life did I ever think I'd be owning it at that point. So, we're very, I'm particularly very proud that we own these brands, and, we're bringing them back to life, but with really good quality. We've got the best designers, across our putter line and across our club lines. We're using the best designers that probably in the history of golf, a number of them, from putters through Osty Rollinson, who was head of Odysseys now at Scotty Cameron, Larry Tang, who came up with the 2-ball putter. They've been working on our putter lines and irons. And then we have Gavin Wallen, who came from Adam. He was with Adams in their heyday, and then worked for other brands as well. But he's now our full-time designer. And the products we're turning out are as good as anybody. But we don't have the rush turnaround of other companies. But so we're really driven to reigniting these brands, so people get them and go, wow, this is, they're making McGregor about making great golf clubs, or Ram, or whatever it is.
Right.
They're really sort of buying into kind of what we're doing and what we're trying to do.
No, I think that's great. I think it's very admirable too. We are going to take a break. We're going to come back with Simon Millington, excuse me, from Golf Brands Inc. down in Henderson, Nevada. I've got more questions. That's not unusual either. Anyway, Simon and I will be back in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. I'm Jeff Tracy, or JT as people call me. Real quick, we want to thank the folks at Painted Hills Natural Beef, beef the way nature intended. You can go to paintedhillsbeef.com. You can actually buy stuff online from them too, so you don't have to go to the grocery store, and that will be delivered right to your door. They've got a store locator there too, so you can type in your zip code and they'll find something for you. Also, Gorilla Grills. Simon doesn't know this, but I do a lot of cooking on my other shows, and so we talk a lot about food, Simon, also. But Gorilla Grills experience the versatility of outdoor cooking with a complete line of gas pellet and charcoal grills, and also pig powder from my radio wife, Leanne Whippen. Go to pigpowder.com. It was voted the best rub on the planet. So we're talking with Simon Millington from Golf Brands. I was just thinking when we went to break, maybe you should call your guy, if he's still around, your friend that used to sell McGregor, and bring him under the fold too.
Yeah. I think well, funny enough, his son worked for us for a number of years. So
oh, really?
Yeah,
well, good for them.
It's been a bit of a family affair over the years, and I'm lucky. Both my sons are in the business, and we work together every day. So that's as a father from it's a great thing to have.
So you're always a guy that is on the go. It seems like, from our brief discussions prior to you coming on the show. What are you looking at? And when you're looking at a brand, is it just the historical significance? If you look to revitalize, regenerate, and give a resurgent to a brand name, or how do you look at that and make a decision?
Look, I'm definitely emotionally attached to these brands. Like I say, from when I was sort of starting in the industry, They were the brand names. And, part of it is you look at it and go, look, we could sort of do another brand and we could spend a ton of money on marketing to get people to know about it and stuff like that. But we start with great brand equity on these brands. Okay, they may have, over the years they've ended up in different places and stuff like that. But to come back and go, we're doing these fantastic golf clubs with Ram, with McGregor, with Ben Hogan, and obviously the way I always say to people, it's like, no matter what anybody thinks, the golf clubs we make today are better, the best McGregors that have ever been made, and the best Rams have ever been made, the best Ben Hogan, because of the technology. And I'm not saying that they did stuff that was bad before, but the
Yeah.
quality of golf clubs in the last 20 years has improved, 20-fold. So we really look and go, right, we can take this brand on, we can really ignite it. Like Ben Hogan was fantastic, for us to get, because to have that real high end forging is, it fits in brilliant with what we're doing. And we've got some beautiful forged irons coming out this year in both Ram and McGregor as well. But it just, like I say, is our job now is to reignite the brands in terms of quality. So if you get it, it's like, I hope anybody who buys a product from us goes, wow, this is unbelievably good, and for the price we pay, we do a lot of it is direct to consumer. So the prices tend to be lower than you would expect to see anywhere else. And, we're building them in the US, so if you order a set of clubs, it's not getting built in China and shipped by FedEx over like, other companies do. We're here, with American jobs and paying
Yeah.
taxes here and doing the stuff, and like I say, I might be English, but I'm really, really proud that we do this here in the United States. And, we're shipping all around the world. And, like I say, when I wander out and look at the orders and they're lined up, and there's some from Australia and there's some from the UK and Germany and Sweden. And it's like, it's really exciting to see that and to be shipping out everywhere.
Was there, when you acquired Hogan and the deal finally went through, was there inventory left over in Fort Worth that you could bring to Nevada?
Yeah. So some of the products that we're selling at the moment was existing inventory, both in Nevada, both in Fort Worth and then also in the Far East.
Mm-hmm.
So we've taken all that on. We've got currently one new model out, which is the PTX Tour, and we're working on. There'll be a new driver that's probably about 3 to 4 months away, and similarly a new set of irons, and then come next year there'll be another couple of sets of irons. There's a new golf bag range. There's some additional wedges coming out. There'll be a new putter range. So a lot of golf bags. So yeah, we've got a lot of new products coming, but we've also got the older product that was existing there last year. So
is there a better time of year to launch something? And we see this, Simon, with Titleist and Callaway and TaylorMade and all those guys, and the PGA show comes around and they kind of tease you in the fall about it. The PGA show comes around and all of a sudden you're inundated with all these club lines. Sometimes personally, and you can call me stodgy for that, I wouldn't be offended, but sometimes I think, man, it's just so overwhelming for the consumer. With a club line, let's stay with Hogan's for a second. Is there a more optimal time to say, we know you've been smothered by all this other stuff, but here's a brand new Hogan driver, and kind of let them maybe breathe in between, if you follow me?
yeah, I mean, listen, we're definitely different in terms of what the industry does. So the industry is obviously always going to sort of this, the next spring selling, right? So,
Right.
and also with the big brands, you see it constantly. I mean, amongst them, TaylorMade, people like that, they're rolling out new clubs, new drivers, definitely every season, could be every 6 months. It's a constant cycle of like, we need to keep the machine. They have a big machine to keep, and they're fantastic at it, right? Whereas as a sort of a smaller family business, we spend a lot of time, we have to get the club right. Tooling is extremely expensive. To tool a set of irons is sort of $40,000, right? So, to tool a driver, to do all that stuff, and we have to get that right when we're doing it as a smaller company, because we can't keep making mistakes. And like other ones, you can kind of make a mistake, they'll clear them out, they'll go on to the next one. It's 6 month
Right.
cycle, whatever it is, right? We don't do that. So our big focus is like, we're going to change the models when there is better equipment to be, we can make something better.
Yes.
So it could be a 2-year cycle, it could be a 3-year cycle. And so in answer to your question, when do we launch our golf clubs? We launch them when we're ready. We're direct to consumer. We're not governed by, what one of the big retailers needs. We're totally focused on let's get the product perfect. If it comes out in November, if it comes out in July, if it comes out in May, it doesn't matter to us. We do it when it's ready and it's right. And obviously not being in the, like you say, that time around the PGA show, we'd also get lost if we brought stuff out there. We will bring stuff out in January if it's ready in January, but we're not fixated on that as a date. So, we'll get more attention on a new Ben Hogan driver in July or August because people aren't bringing golf clubs out then, but we do it. It's ready. That's when it's ready. And it's literally as much as when do we launch it? When it's ready and we've got it. That's it. Yesterday in my golf spy, they had the top blades for 2024 and we came second with the new Zebra putter. We don't actually have them in yet for another month, which is frustrating. So we get this, but it was like we put them in for the test. It's fun, when you're beating Ping and Scotty Cameron and Bettenard and stuff, it's really proud. Again, that was Larry Tang designed all those. But it's, that's it. It just happens we put them in for the test and they're not going to be into the middle of April. It is what it is. It took that long to get them right. There was a lot of work went into them. And so.
No, that's all right. It's only a couple of weeks away really anyway. So yeah. Have you had to do, there's a famous story about Mr. Hogan. I actually saw him once. I didn't talk to him, but I was at his club and saw him sitting in the corner eating lunch. He was a lot older in those days. And I was 4 years old. So anyway, the point is there's a famous story about him looking at the iron sets. They'd just come off the assembly line. He looked at them. He didn't like them, and he threw them all away. You haven't had to ever do that, have you?
No, we haven't. Luckily, yeah. We, it's like I say, we go through quite a process. I mean, sort of really more than you could imagine to get stuff right. So literally, we'll test stuff. I'll go and test it. I'll give it to people to try and test of all handicaps. I'll, be it from a golf ball to a golf bag and stuff. We kind of do it like a golfer would. It's like, oh, we could actually that I could do with a pocket there. That would be handy on a golf bag, and so like we kind of do it. We're not just sitting in a sort of the design studio coming up with design. We're actually going out and testing them. We're giving to golfers to hit them, and we haven't had too many horror stories, I'm pleased to say.
Well,
I'm not saying there's never been any, but I'm just even to we're looking to launch a new golf ball, and one I found that I really liked, but I took it out to test it on Saturday, and literally it wasn't my finest round of golf, but you'd hit it and the cover would cut so easily. It was like, the good old days of a Bellata golf ball.
Yeah.
So that's it, like we can sit in the studio, we can test all the, all the compression and all these things and be pleased with the golf ball. And, I've got covered in my desk here is golf balls cut in two to check, the way the cores are and stuff like that. But you go and hit it and it cuts. So it's like, it's back to the drawing board on that. So we kind of do those sort of from everywhere, from having the greatest designers design them and come up with all the tech to actually going and hitting them and getting good players, bad players, everybody in between to have a hit, So
I would think that, putting a smiley face on the cover of a ball these days is not a high priority for people,
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's, we try, like I say, we just take our time and we try and get it right. And we're not in a, there's no pressure. It's a family business. We're not under any pressure from shareholders or investors or anything else that we got to get this out and we've got to do this. We've got to get a golf ball launched. It's like, we're not going to launch the golf ball now for a bit longer because it wasn't right.
Right.
So, until we get it right, we're not launching it. And that's to say, we don't want to bring in thousands of dozens of golf balls and then get them all back and people be unhappy with them, so.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back, wrap up the show with Simon Millington. He is the CEO of Golf Brands Inc. down in Henderson, Nevada. And Simon and I will be back in just a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. Today we are talking with Simon Millington from Golf Brands Inc. Very interesting story. You've had a really interesting life too, Simon. I mean, the growing up in the UK, now owning a big golf company. No, it's not as big as Titleist, but for one family, it's a big golf company. regardless of the number of brands in your line. You've got that. You have to travel. What other things, what other products, you don't have to give away the company secrets, but what other products are you looking at to add to your lines?
Um, like we're definitely completing lines, if you like, at the moment. So for instance, with Ben Hogan, we'll have golf balls, we'll have gloves, we'll have a full range of golf bags that was lacking before. We'll have, sort of the travel, the nice sort of the Boston bags and shoe bags and products like that, headwear.
Right.
So we're trying to complete all of our brands because again, we get sometimes you get it could be I don't know, it's like you get fixated on we're doing this new iron, and then we've kind of, as I say, it's a family business. We're all going to be working together. We've not got teams of specialists in, making shoe bags. So it's like, okay, we need to get that done, and then we know, we've got to travel, and we're launching McGregor clothing next year. So that's becomes another whole project and a kind of a different skill set. So we need to get some different people in to kind of look after that because we're not, I'm a kind of hard good guy. I'm a golf club and golf bags. I'm in that hard, dirty bit of the industry. So the clothing is a tougher one for us, but we'll be launching that next year. So so it's completing lines, it's improving lines, it's just sort of
Yeah.
constant evolution, if you like.
Just FYI, Simon, I've got a Ben Hogan shirt on under this sweater.
Yeah,
So
very good.
yeah, I've been wearing them for a long time. They actually fit. I'm not a little tiny guy, and they fit me very well. So I've been wearing them for a long time. Just
Yeah,
like
brilliant.
I said, just FYI there. Where do you see golf brands 5 years from now? Or where would you like to see it?
I'd like, well, kind of, I feel like we're in a very good place now. We are, I'm really happy with the brands we have. I'm not looking for anything particularly at the moment. I mean, you never know, something comes along, but
Sure.
mind you, I always say that and then I always end up buying something else. But you know, so definitely just growth. Obviously we want to grow the business still. We're still very ambitious with the business and continue to grow, to build on our, to really grow the reputation. I mean, I think the biggest thing in 5 years is that I want more people to talk about Ram McGregor and Ben Hogan, not as, oh yeah, I know them from back in the day. It's like I want to play them because they're fantastic golf clubs. So that's the thing that we have to work on, and like I say, we do it, be it with the media, be it whatever. We're putting clubs in that we're proud to sell. That we are, we send them to reviews, to get reviews that we do, like to come second in my golf spot. You start off, you to do a putter test with the best will in the world. If I give you a Scotty Cameron and I give you a Zebra and I give you an Odyssey, you're already favouring the Scotty Cameron because you think it's the best putter there. So for us to get second and beat these brands is such an achievement because you've got past mindset as well at that point.
Right.
People are not expecting that to be the best putter, and it was, I think, the best putter from inside 10 feet, which is the one probably that matters more than anything. So it's that constant brand elevation, if you like, that we're trying to do, but that comes from getting the product right to start with. So, and then we're selling it all around the world now. We've got distributors in sort of every sort of corner of the world in a number of the brands, and that's pretty exciting when you're selling stuff to the Philippines and Indonesia and Australia, New Zealand, and all these places. And it's like, that's pretty pleasing when they're approaching you and want to be your distributor in. I say, you wouldn't think the Philippines would be knocking your
Yeah.
door down, but they are. And so that's really pleasing as well. And, our continued sort of development of that.
Yeah. Well, the Philippines is more known for machine guns than it is golf. So
Yeah. So it's brilliant when you sell stuff there. I love, say we just had orders this week, China and Taiwan and Germany and it's really pleasing when you see that. So for sure.
absolutely. Is the European market for American goods rising?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's I feel that it has that kudos, made in, say we're building everything here. It's like in America, it still means something around the world for sure,
Yeah.
and like I say, it's, I would say the same, sort of being proudly English, if you like, that, made in England still carries a certain kudos around
Sure.
the world. And so, yeah, I think there's definitely, certainly in golf if you look at golf companies now, if you take out the Japanese, there's not really, it's Japan and America. That's really where the industry is owned, right? So yeah, I think there's definitely still a love of American brands. I don't find any animosity anywhere, any resistance to that. So
Sure. We're gonna wrap up the show here, but Simon is gonna, he doesn't know it, but he's gonna stick around for a few minutes for the after hours, which is always the fun part. Simon, real quick, where can people find golf brands? Where can they find your websites to make orders or look at your
yeah,
products?
I mean, I think if you can go, each of their sites has their own domain. So if you went on ramgolf.com, mcgregorgolf.com, benhogangolf.com, zebragolf.com, you'll find all the brands there. So, but if you search us, we're here, there, and everywhere. So you'll find us easy
I
enough
got it.
if you
I got
type
it.
it.
All right. Well, like I said, this is going to wrap it up for the regular show. We're going to jump into after hours here, but I want to thank Simon Millington from Golf Brands for joining us. Everybody out there, go out, play some golf, have some fun, be kind, and enjoy your week. Take care, everybody. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green, or I should say, welcome to After Hours. I kind of tricked Simon into this part, so he might forgive me for this, but I'm joking. We've talking with Simon Millington from Golf Brands Incorporated in Henderson, Nevada. One thing I didn't get to in the regular show, Simon, was do you think the brick and mortar golf businesses? I mean, you've got big ones, you've got Dick's, and you've got Golf Galaxy, you've got the PGA Superstore. I can go on a little bit there. But do you think the smaller brick and mortar, if you will, the mom and pops are going to survive because so many people can do business off the internet?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting because there's one big group that has about 70 stores with Orstads as the sort of the lead of those, and they're like a group, a buying group of individual stores. So they're
Sure.
really an interesting group. I mean, the one thing I would say is, and it would go back to going to when I was a kid, sport obsessed, going into this local sports shop where the guy owned it was the guy in the shop, and I loved that place. I knew it like the back of my hand. I mean, it was it was fantastic, and I still think you get from an independent retailer, and I hope they do continue in business because you get a different level of service to me. The way I feel when I go in there, it's like you go and talk to an independent guy. You're probably talking to the guy who owns the shop, who really understands. When you go in some of these big box golf stores, I'll walk in and they'll say, "Can I help you?" And I really want to say, I think that's unlikely, but here we are. But whereas you go in these smaller shops, and you know, I've taken before, one time, I've taken some clubs in to be repaired in some of these places, these big box ones. And I mean, like, it's embarrassing to see the work that comes out of some of them and stuff like that. Whereas I think if you go to your local guy, there's a guy who's perhaps been doing it for 25 years and he knows what
Right.
he's doing, and he's an expert. And I think so. I really hope that those independents do survive and even thrive, and be kind of brave enough to go and open and compete against these big guys, because to me, I'd much rather go in a smaller golf store that's got the same stuff in but packed, and you're getting a hands that you're talking to a real good golf guy as opposed to a shop assistant. And that's what I hope. So I really hope that they thrive. And I mean, does it die out because people are not going to be brave enough necessarily to open a golf store in the same town that there's a Golf Galaxy or a PGA Tour Superstore? Maybe, but I certainly hope that they survive and thrive.
Where I live, Simon, it's a little it's a little weird anyway. That is always the saying, like, keep Oregon weird. Um, but we have a Golf Galaxy. We have Dick's, of course, and they're kind of one and the same. We've got Golf Tech and that. But when we had what was the big um the
Golfsmith.
big yeah, Golfsmith, thank you. I've had a little brain fade there. They went out and we actually saw a couple of local stores One in Portland that is owned by three friends. They're all in their 30s and 40s. They're very assertive, and they took that from a little hole in the wall store that was basically a repair place from years ago. The guy got tired, they bought the thing, and they're booming.
Yeah,
They're actually booming because of the customer service that
yeah.
you spoke of. And I think that is so important. And even the pro shops at the clubs, I've noticed that the pro shops have shrunk their inventory a little bit because it's hard for them to compete. I think pro shops, and you could tell me this, did pro shops always work on a little higher margin than the mom and pops?
I mean, possibly. I think part of it is, essentially that golf pros or the golf, that sort of golf course thing is, I think it's an easy way out to just not do it. I mean, there's map pricing, the pricing's pretty fixed on the golf industry,
Right.
it's by the manufacturers. And I think, to me, the golf pros have got it the easiest of everybody. And I'm not knocking golf pros at this point, but if you like, they have a captive audience, they're giving lessons. I mean, if you really want to work hard and be particularly in the clubs, they'll do clothing and the soft goods and that's it. But they kind of gave up a little bit. And I think custom fits help them bring some of that back. But I do think you've got to be able to say, if I'm teaching you to play golf, I really want to make sure that I should be the one selling you golf clubs. And conversely, the golfers, I would tell a golfer, if you're going to buy a set of golf clubs that you want to try and stuff, go and do it with a golf pro with a lesson to make sure, if that's what you're going to do, as
Yeah.
opposed to going into a big box retailer, I'd go and have somebody, because I've talked at length with people about this. Is like, how do you fit somebody? So people go in for a fitting, but they get fitted by perhaps not an expert, but maybe good. Let's assume they're good at it. But if you put a bad swing on, they're going to fit you for that bad swing. Now, and it's happened. I've seen people come back from major manufacturers with terrible fittings because they've gone there. Then when one came back from with a 4-degree upright set of irons because he came over the top of it when he was nervous. That was his bad swings. He got fitted for that. Now, I think you should fit for the golfer's physicality. It's like, I'm 6'4", so I'm plus 3/4 of an inch. I'm 1 degree upright stiff, right? That's it. I know what I need. And I think, the problem is people get fitted by people who don't necessarily know about their golf swing, but they can look at a computer and say, well, you hit this one better. But it doesn't necessarily translate into
Right.
that golf swing of the day. And so I think I'm a great believer in fitting people correctly and saying to them, look, get fitted, get this is what you should actually, we build the clubs for, then have some lessons, spend the savings with us on lessons. You're going to be a better golfer. When you see people spending, beginners spending $3,000 on a set of golf clubs, it's like, spend $500 and $2,500 on lesson. I guarantee you can be a better player.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I had a friend who shall remain nameless, but he's a golf pro and all that. Um, and he gets, he's on one of the major brands pro lists. That's what he sells in his through his website, through his lessons and all that. And I had never hit a golf ball in front of him before. And he was like, well, come on down. I'm going to bring some clubs up, meet you at the range, and we're going to do this. So he comes in with this bag of clubs, and it looks like something out of Caddyshack. It's like just full stuff. And he goes, well, hit this one, and then hit this one. And he's changing the heads and all this. And it actually kind of made me nervous. And Simon, I'm sculling balls right and left, and I'm not getting them more than 20 feet off the ground or something, because he made me nervous. He's a nice
Yeah,
guy and I like him, but he made me
yeah,
nervous as hell. And I'm out there doing this, and he goes, well, and he's taking notes and all this. And it's like, dude, this is not the way I hit my golf ball all the time,
yeah.
you know?
But that's it. That's what you don't need to be fitted for.
Right.
That's on that bad day. That's what I say. It's like, fit you for what you actually need. Is like, I'm all for swing speed and, getting the shaft right. You get your how tall, hand to wrist to floor measurements and all these parts of it, grip
Right.
size. But that's really, I think, what you should build a golf club around, not bad golf swings. It's like, if just spend some money on lessons, and that the clubs are now right for you. Now get the golf swing right for you. If you're swinging that badly, I just don't think it's the answer to have golf clubs fitted for a bad swing.
I agree with you, and I'll tell you something else. Of all the people I've had on the show, and we've been doing this show for what, 7 years now or something, you're the first person that ever said that.
Yeah,
Even all the fitting people I've had on over the years, and I like them all. They're great people. I've played golf with some of them. It's a lot of fun. But you're the first person that ever said about the fitting and having a bad day, or maybe the person being nervous.
yeah.
They've never addressed that. So
Yeah,
kudos
because
to you.
it's what they do, right? And it's how they sell it. But like I say, from my perspective, it just doesn't make sense. And I've seen the horror stories that come with it. And I don't think you get a horror story when you go, these clubs are right for your height. Uh, we've sponsored for a number of years, and he's a great friend of mine, Ian Woosnam. Now he's 5'4". He's not easy to fit, So
No,
he's 5'4". He has 3 degrees flat. He's and hits it as good as anybody you'll ever see. But you've got to fit him for physicality. It's like there's no good if he puts a bad swing on and going, you need him 1 degree upright. He's a 3 degree flat guy, and you've got to sort of work on that physical attribute
sure.
first and his setup to get that right, versus oh well it's all this is what the computer says. Well, I honestly don't care what the computer says, because that's like you say, you just, even if you stand in front of the golf pro and you're topping it and he goes, all right, he's writing notes, it's like, yeah, the note should say, let's get some lessons before we get the clubs.
Right, right, right.
So
That's all good. With all the uh couple of personal comments here from you, perhaps, and then I promise we'll do a couple three fun questions that I put people on the spot with, just make them think. Um, the changes in the golf world, especially the changes, there are big discussions over the years about, roll back the ball, roll back the head dimensions on the drivers, so on and so on and so on. Kind of give us your overview on all those things, because you're a
yeah,
man that's right in the middle of it.
yeah, listen, I actually fully understand both sides of it. I understand the industry saying we're trying to make it better, more fun for the average golfer. I also understand that, if you look at the tour, the golf courses that have been played on tour are becoming not fit for purpose. Now, I went and played in Scotland last year, and you play St Andrews. It's St Andrews, so it's fantastic to go there and play golf. I'd
Right.
recommend anybody to do it. Is it a great golf course now at 6,400 yards off the tips? No, it's not. Wind makes it interesting, but it's not a challenging links golf course. You go and play Carnoustie down the road, that's still fit for it, right? But
Right.
St Andrews isn't, and golf courses can't evolve like Augusta does, where they'll buy a lump of land and they'll build the whole suddenly, 50 yards longer, and they keep toughening their golf course. And actually, Woozy was a great one. He was a great believer in the ball needed some adjustment, and what he talked about, which was quite interesting, is not rolling back the ball in terms of distance, but stopping the fact, making the ball spin more, so that if you want to try and hit it really hard and drive a green, like you see Rory drive a 400-yard green,
Right.
you can do that, but the ball is going to spin more. So you get more side spin. Now the ball's going to go. If you miss it, it's going to be worse, because golf
Yeah.
balls now, they go straighter as well, So that was quite an interesting view on it. Of if it would
Yeah.
take a lot of governing, certainly in tour level. Um, but I do think it needs to be governed. I think the golf ball is the easy. They govern the drivers, to an extent. People might try and work around it. It's largely governed. But I don't think it's and I think really we're talking about the professional game. I don't think for the that we're going to see massive changes for the consumer.
Right.
But I think for the professional game, can you have golf courses that people are driving par fours and par fives to drive a wedge and stuff like that? They become poor events for that. When you see the great courses, when you see them playing at Sawgrass or at Bay Hill, or you go and see open courses and stuff like that, they're proper golf courses, and they're remain a great challenge. But if you so many of these other tour events and you see people shooting 30 under, and I know it doesn't necessarily matter and it might still be good for the audience, but aren't the tournaments like Sawgrass and Bay Hill better when you've got tougher holes and you've got more chance? If somebody's got a 3-shot lead at some of these courses, you go, well, they're going to win, because there's not, they can't, to drop 3 shots
Yeah.
in the last 3 holes, they're too easy for them. Whereas you go and see those really great courses, Augusta always has that, when you come through 13 and 15 and 16, it's an easy par three, but, suddenly it gets hooked in the water, and then 18 is a fantastic finishing hole, that when you stand on that back tee at Augusta, it's so narrow and it's
Yeah.
so but there's not courses like that enough, and so and you can't I see your background being Sheep Ranch, when that blows up there, that's these golf
Yeah.
courses, but they're built for sort of modern day, I call them like a modern day links golf course, the modern day take, and it's but the wind can make that a whole different
Oh
ball
yeah.
game up there, so
Yeah. I always thought, excuse me, at Augusta, instead of calling it Amen Corner, they should have called it Holy. You can fill in your own
yeah.
adjective after that.
But that, I mean, I was lucky. I caddied for Woozy in two Masters, and when you come down to that corner, I mean, it's quite surreal down there because it gets kind of quite. When you come, 11 is so difficult, and it's such a difficult hole, and then 12 kind of. You stand there and look and go, it's not really that hard, but it's
Yeah.
so narrow, the green, and then
Yeah.
13 is like the quietest part. 12th green and 13 is so quiet because there's no spectators. It's kind of bizarre there, So it's just that golf course, it can produce so much. If you've got a 4-shot lead, 5-shot lead, you saw Faldo take Greg Norman down that time. There's not enough of a lead to feel comfortable.
Right.
As you come in
Right.
that back nine. So
Right. So quick question though, if you were caddying for Woozy, did the coveralls fit you down there?
I've got to say they did. They were a bit tricky to get across over the shoulders with the button up thing. So I had to have
Yeah.
a bit of a luckily, yeah, it was quite surreal, but it was an incredible experience. But yeah, I did have to have help. It wasn't so much getting them on; it was getting them off was the challenge.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Okay, a couple of fun questions for you here, Simon. If you could play a round of golf with one of your golfing heroes, they can be alive or not. Who would it be?
Sevi.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I think that would just be really, really fun. And if you could dine with a historical figure, who would it be and what would be on the menu? And I would come cook for you if you wanted. But the point is, who would the historical figure be and what would be on the menu?
Does he have to be a golfer or anybody?
No, anybody.
Do you know? I think it'd be Winston Churchill. He loved drinking champagne, and
Yeah.
I think I'd be okay with that. and he looked like he enjoyed a good meal. So yeah, Winston
I
Churchill.
heard something the other day. I don't know if it's true or not. And I actually saw it in a TV show. So it could have just been made up. But when Churchill was back in the war and stuff, and he'd have his cigars and he'd have that big long ash on it. And what he did is he took a hat pin and stuck it in the cigar. And so people were always thinking that the ash would fall or when it would fall, and it never fell like that. I never knew that.
Yeah, it kept the focus on him because they'd stare at his cigar, so they'd listen to him.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. If you could erase one mistake from your past, what would it be, if any?
Oh, I mean, that's a good question, isn't it? What would it be? I don't know. I kind of don't. I'm not somebody who kind of looks in the rearview mirror. Really, I don't have too many regrets. It's like like if you from a business perspective, you have things go wrong and bad things happen, but you kind of if you learn from them, I kind of think that's part of life, right?
Sure.
Probably do I wish I'd done stuff earlier than I did. I wish if I'd known about going out to getting Brad. Just I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of I'm just not somebody really looks back with a ton of regrets.
Yeah, good. If you were declared supreme ruler of golf, the edict came down from on high, and Simon Millington is the supreme ruler of golf for just one day, though. What would you decree as supreme ruler of golf?
Am I allowed two things?
You're the supreme ruler.
Right. Firstly, divots on the fairway. Your ball being in there is completely and utterly ridiculous. It's the ultimate ground under repair. So I would change the rule that if you are on the fairway, anywhere on the fairway, if you're on the short grass, you can pick place clean within 6 inches. You shouldn't have mud on your ball and you shouldn't be in a divot. It's ridiculous that you get punished for being in the middle of the fairway. That would be day one. The other thing I would do is I think we have an antiquated, this is from a manufacturing point of view, but also golfer's enjoyment. I think we have an antiquated rule that you're allowed 14 golf clubs in your bag. It goes back to, used to be back in the day, it was 1, 2, 3, 4 woods. It was 3 to sand iron and a putter. That was your 14 clubs. But now people have hybrids and they have lofted, they have lofted wedges. They have, they want to hit a 7 wood. They want to have these things. What does it matter in terms of that? And I don't care, if they made it 15 or 16, allow people, instead of having to go, I've got to take my 4-iron out, or I've got to take a wedge out, or I want to hit, I need this. And just let people, what does it matter if people have more than 14 clubs? I mean, obviously the conversation, that people would always go back to Ian Woosnam, I keep mentioning there, but obviously he famously had 15 and lost 2 shots in the Open. But I honestly don't. I think so in answer to your question, if that was it, I would say, hey, right, let's add a couple of clubs. You don't need to take anything out of your bag to want to be a better golfer, and have more fun. So
I would say especially, if they want to keep that rule for the pros, I don't have a problem with it. But for the amateur players, the regular weekend warrior guys, have at it. Yeah, that's what.
But even the pros, and I do agree with you. But even the pros, why is it 14 clubs? Literally, why? And if the pros, they've still got to execute the shot, right? So, and if I think it makes it more interesting if you've got, like Mickelson used to carry 2 drivers, right? He'd have a small-headed one and stuff like that. Makes it interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple more here, Simon, and then we'll release you from your bonds here. If we put your skills to music, what would the music be?
Oh my word, this is some good questions. What would it be? What would it be in a song? I don't know. I can't honestly think. Oh, just trying to think. Oh, let's go my way. Let's do a bit of Frank Sinatra.
Okay, all right. Very good. Very good. Here's one that I think will make you scratch your head. What would your last meal be on death row?
Oh, is it just a main course? Are we talking?
Whatever you want.
I'm a food guy.
Yeah, whatever you want.
I'm gonna have to go Cajun ribeye with some lobster.
My man, that is good. That is good. That is good. Last question here. This is your opportunity. What would Simon Millington's message to the world be?
Be happy. Just be happy.
Excellent. Excellent.
And you look at it, there's so much sad, people, there's such terrible things, like just get on it. Just, like I say, I don't look backwards, just look forwards, be happy.
There you go. Simon Millington from Golf Brands Inc. down in Henderson. You can find them all over the web. Thanks for taking the time to be with us here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been
no problem. We'll be back next week with another edition of Grilling at the Green After Hours. Until then, for Simon and myself, go out, play some golf, smile, and have some fun. Take care, everybody.